Is Atletico Madrid the most likely destination for Mason Greenwood? Jadon Sancho desperate to stay at Borussia Dortmund beyond his loan spell. Raphael Varane looking to renegotiate his contract and finish his career at Manchester United. These are some of the topics we will be discussing on this morning's show. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video. Please subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start the show off with Jadon Sancho. Obviously, he got a goal last night in PSV's loss, actually. Obviously, he plays for Dortmund. He scored for Dortmund last night, sending Dortmund through to the next round of the Champions League knockouts. A lot of hype's been going around on Twitter, people saying, what's Erik ten Hag done? Look how good he is, all the rest of it. I don't buy into it personally. If you've actually watched any of Jadon Sancho's games at Dortmund since he's joined, he hasn't been amazing. He's been okay. You know, he's got a couple of goals. He's got 2 goals so far in 10 matches across all competitions. I mean, that's okay, isn't it? It's what you'd expect for a player playing in an attacking position in a good Borussia Dortmund side. But yeah, this story's coming out from Fabrizio Romano, obviously very reliable. And he says that Jadon Sancho would love to stay at Dortmund. I think if we can get this deal done, then you have to do it. Obviously, we're going to take a massive loss on the amount of money we gave them. We paid 85 million euros we paid to Dortmund for Jadon Sancho. The fees that are being kind of floated around in the media today are somewhere between 30 and 40 million euros. So we're going to take a huge loss, probably at least half of what we paid him. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, like, we don't really have much of another option, really. He's got 2 years left of his current deal. He's obviously not going to sign a new contract. Why would he do that? Now, obviously, there is a scenario where Erik ten Hag's not the manager anymore, and maybe a new manager comes in and says, I really want to work with Jadon Sancho, you know, someone like a Nagelsmann, somebody who's obviously very familiar with the Bundesliga. Just as an example, maybe he comes in and he says, you know, Jadon Sancho, in my opinion, is world class. I want Jadon Sancho here, and maybe he gets a second chance at Manchester United. But for me personally, as a fan, you can't come back from what Jadon Sancho did, okay? He calls out the manager on Twitter, which ultimately is disgracing not only the club, but the fans and the rest of his teammates. He then refuses to play or train, refuses to apologise. And then there's this big standoff. And, you know, people will say, oh, Erik ten Hag should have handled it better. Maybe he should have, but you should never do a statement against your manager on Twitter, you know? And all of the stories over the last kind of 3 or 4 years at Man City, at Dortmund, is that he's had a bad attitude, you know? Late for training, not giving 100%, maybe his ego's too big and all the rest of it. And for me personally, we don't need that as part of Manchester United's rebuild. I think Manchester United as a club is too big. There's too much pressure, there's too much noise. And having a player like Jadon Sancho who thinks that he's better than he is just going to cause problems, you know? You see him go off to Dortmund. Dortmund aren't on the level of Man United in a brand perspective, are they? He can just go there and play his football and no one really cares. So, you know, I think if we can get this deal done, I think it would be an incredible bit of business to do. You know, if we were to get 40 million, say, for him, that would be enough to go and get Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. And we've gone from having a player who effectively refused to play for us, you know, to somebody, Michael Olise, who we know is a Manchester United fan, who's doing really well in the Premier League. So yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. Hopefully we can get this deal done. It's definitely one to watch in the summer. I'll obviously keep you updated on the channel as and when we get more news about it. But for me personally, going getting a Michael Olise, he's got 6 goals, 3 assists in 11 appearances in the Premier League this season. It's an absolute no-brainer. So let's hope that this deal gets done. But let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. Jadon Sancho to Dortmund. What would be your best solution in this whole scenario? Right, keeping on outgoings, let's talk a little bit about Mason Greenwood. So we've had quite a few bits of information come out over the last kind of week or so. Obviously, John Murta is apparently in Spain at the moment, meeting clubs in Madrid, meeting clubs in Barcelona. We're not entirely sure what exactly the conversations that are being had in these meetings are, but one of them is led to believe to do with Mason Greenwood. And to do with, you know, what will happen going forward with Mason Greenwood. So the first story comes out from Paul Hurst, very reliable journalist for The Times here in the UK. And he is reporting that Atletico Madrid remain interested in signing Mason Greenwood this summer. Okay. And then it also says Mason Greenwood likes Spain and wants to stay in the country next season. And I think, you know, all of the people that want Mason Greenwood to come back really need to focus on that statement that I've just read. So very reliable journalist saying that Mason Greenwood likes it in Spain and wants to stay there. That's what the player wants. He's gone there. He's got no pressure from the media, really. He's playing his football, him and his family. I think he's got a young child, and he's just enjoying life again. He's enjoying playing football again. And that, you can't just say, oh, I want Mason Greenwood back and not think about the rest of the picture. The picture is he's gone there, he's doing well, and he's happy. And if that's what he wants, and it's probably the best thing for the club as well, then you have to do that and you have to respect that, you know? The story also then goes on to say, this is coming out from another journalist called Peter Hall, who reports for Sky Sports and some other places as well. He says insiders believe that Athletico Madrid is a more viable option for Mason Greenwood rather than Barcelona, given Barcelona's current financial struggles. It says Saudi clubs are also planning a swoop for Greenwood. An asking price of around £40 million is to be expected. It sounds a little bit low to me, but I think, you know, given the context of everything, £40 million, which will be 100% profit, really helps our financial fair play situation. As I said, it's at the bottom end of what I think Mason Greenwood's worth. I think 40 million would be the absolute minimum, but given the current moment and given obviously all of the stuff around him, I think 40 million is probably, it's fair, but it's low, okay? And again, that would be 100% profit. We could, go and reinvest that on someone else, couldn't we? We could go and buy someone like, Michael Elise is the name that we spoke about earlier on in the show. You know, plays in the same position on the right wing, still young, 22 years of age, the same age as Greenwood. That's what I would do personally. But obviously, feel free to let me know in the comment section, guys. How much do you think Mason Greenwood is worth? And also, let me know where you think Mason Greenwood's going to end up. Do you think he'll go to Saudi? Do you think he'll go to Barcelona, to Athletico Madrid? Or do you think maybe he'll come back to Manchester United? Let me know what you think. I always like to see what other United fans say. So get in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Moving on to the next story, we've got a bit of a news about Raphael Varane. And the story this morning is that apparently Varane wants to stay at Manchester United. He doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, apparently, and he's open to renegotiate his current deal with Manchester United and would accept lower wages if he could stay at Manchester United for another 2 to 3 years. Now, I think this is a really interesting talking point, and it's something that I want to open up to the channel for everybody to get their opinions in. I think Varane is probably our best centre-back. You know, him and Martinez are close up there, but I would still say Varane is our best centre-back at the moment. The main issue I have with Varane is not his quality. He's a quality player. He really, really is. My issues with Varane are his injury record. I think he gets injured a lot, although he hasn't been injured for a while, which is good, but generally he does get injured a lot. Let's have a look. So this season so far, he's only missed 5 games this season for injury. I mean, that is pretty good, isn't it, for a 30-year-old? Whereas if you look at last season, he missed 15 games through injury. The season before that, he missed 15 games through injury. Obviously, the season's not ended yet, so maybe these stats are a little bit premature. He's missed 5 games so far. He missed 15 games last season and 15 games the season before. And from what we're hearing, apparently he can only play around 1 game per week at the moment, which is fine. I think the big thing for me is keeping him fit. If you keep Varane fit, he's one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League, without a shadow of a doubt. But I just don't think that a team that aren't going to be in the Champions League next season, most likely, unless an absolute miracle happens, we can't be paying him 340 grand a week. That's how much he's being paid. So if he was happy to say half his wage, so somewhere around 150, I would keep him personally. I would, because I think having somebody with that much experience, Champions League winner multiple times. He won the World Cup. He's a very experienced player, and he is our best centre-back, without a shadow of a doubt. So for me personally, I would welcome Varane staying. But the biggest thing for me here is that, as this story says, he needs to take a massive wage cut. If it was going to be half of his current salary, I think he'd be worth keeping, because he'd then be earning less than people like Maguire. And that kind of sums it up for me. Somewhere around 150k a week, I think, would be fair for him, given his injury record, given his age, and given that at this stage in his career, he doesn't really have that many options. Like, it's going to be a move to Saudi. And if he doesn't want to do that, if he wants to stay playing for Man United, the biggest club in the world, he wants to stay competing in, the Premier League and all the rest of it, then he has to make some compromises. The interesting thing with Varane is his contract is up in the summer. So Manchester United are going to have to be quick about this, because if they're not, then he could leave as a free agent. But yeah, apparently talks are ongoing. I've just checked, actually. Apparently his contract has been extended by 1 year. So Manchester United had a trigger They have this in most of the contracts. So when it gets down to the last kind of year of the contract, Manchester United usually have the option of extending it for one more season. But that will be on the current wages, which is around 340k a week. So going forward, if Varane wants to stay at the club, then I do think we need to, heavily reduce his wage. And I would welcome him staying. It's just the key thing, as I said, is he needs to be on a lower wage, because no player at Manchester United should be earning 340 grand a week. We've not won a Premier League in 10 years. We've not won a Champions League in 10 plus years. The last trophy we've won in 6 years is a League Cup. You can't be paying people £340,000 a week to win one trophy in 6 years. Like, that just screams incompetence to me. It screams how badly we've been run over the last kind of 10 to 15 years under the Glazers. When you compare that with Man City players, like John Stones, he's on 250. Ruben Dias is 180. I mean, the fact that Varane is paid more than Kyle Walker, Ruben Dias, he's paid nearly double that. It just sums it up for me. They've just won the treble. We've won nothing of any importance in 10 or more years. And, the Man City defenders who are starting for them every week, don't get injured very much, are earning about half of what he is. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. That's my take on it. I would keep him, but only if his salary was to be reduced heavily. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Do get in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts on Varane. Let me know your thoughts on Mason Greenwood. And also let me know what you think about Jadon Sancho. Thank you so much for watching the show this morning, guys. This has been Daily Red Devil. Please don't forget to smash a like and subscribe on your way out. And I'll speak to you all a little bit later.